एक खोखे के ऊपर जितना भी मिला तुम सब में,
बाकी हमारा।
Weapons?
गाड़ी में कम से कम 4 खोखे का माल है।
Sorry, stuck in my head. Hi, I'm Pratikshya Mishra, and you're listening to Do I Like It? A Quint production where we review anything and everything under the sun. And in this episode, I will tell you if I like Kuttey. I remember watching the trailer of the film and I was so excited because I would get to say the word Kuttey and ideally Kamine also on camera and the podcast repeatedly with no censoring. Not that anybody censors me here, but still it's just fun. It's fun when it's legal. But yeah, anyway, Kuttey is Vishal Bhardwaj's son, Aasmaan Bhardwaj's debut directorial, and well, a pretty interesting premise. It's caper. It's a caper basically कि बहुत सारे लोग हैं and they're trying to kind of get one specific thing. And do they manage to get it? How do they manage to get it? It's a whole thing. That's basically what the entire film is about. Alright, now the film has a great cast. It's actually part of why I was so excited for the film. There's Arjun Kapoor as Gopal, Tabu as Pammi, Nasiruddin Shah as Narayan Khobre, Konkana Sen Sharma as Lakshmi, Kumud Mishra as Paji, Radhika Madan as Lovely, and Shardul Bhardwaj as Danny. Now, the story and screenplay is by Aasmaan Bhardwaj, and the dialogues and additional screenplay are by Vishal Bhardwaj. Now, Vishal Bhardwaj is one of my favorite filmmakers when it comes to India. I feel like the way that he has written women is better than a lot of mainstream Bollywood, especially in the time that he was doing it. Think Maqbool, think Saath Khoon Maaf, what else? There is Kamine, for that is fact, there's Priyanka Chopra's character in Kamine. All of those women are written so brilliantly in the sense that even in the situation that they're in the setting that they're in, most of Vishal Bhardwaj's films, except maybe Saath Khoon Maaf, was a very man's world cinema. And even within that, he would create great female characters. Does that happen in Kuttey? Let's find out. But before I dive into that, I want to tell you that you can check out our other episodes from this series as well as other podcasts from the Quint on our website or wherever you get your podcasts from. Does Aasmaan Bhardwaj live up to, say, the standards that have been set by Vishal Bhardwaj cinema? First of all, when I entered the theatre, and even before actually, I had decided not to compare Aasmaan's directorial debut to Vishal Bhardwaj's films. Why? Because I feel like I wanted Aasmaan to kind of be judged as a director in his own merit. But that becomes a little tough when you see that Vishal Bhardwaj is clearly in the film, in the sense that पहली बात तो ढंटड़ान बज रहा है background में, right? And it's from Kamine, it's from Vishal's film. Secondly, there's one glaring issue, that of the female characters. You just can't help but compare once you see both of those things. क्योंकि कुत्ते में, like, okay, let me draw a parallel. If Vishal Bhardwaj's cinema is what happens when you write for women or write women clearly while keeping women in mind, Kuttey's female characters is an example of what happens when you don't think much about women while you're writing your film. The characters are written well on paper in the sense that आमने सामने, if you are less, not आमने सामने, so just ऊपर से, if you look at the characters, you'll be like, these are very well written. But the way the film sees women in general is very male-gazy. It's performative, like it's bad in the sense that, suppose when you're, and I've talked about this so much, I've harped on and on about this, even my friends are tired at this point, in a good way, that when you're showing violence in a film, like violence versus sexual violence, or like violence versus violence against minority communities, there is a thin line in the way you can show that. But that line is lost on Kuttey. It's just because, it's a very Quentin Tarantino, there's guns, there's glory, there's money, all that is happening. Just because of that doesn't mean that you can't change the way that you look at violence. A very interesting look into that perhaps would be if you compare it to, say, Kala. The way Kala shows sexual violence or violence in general is very different from the way that you see it in Kuttey. Let's say, another show that I watched this Friday only is Trial by Fire. In that, it's dealing with a huge tragedy, it's dealing with human suffering. But the way that suffering has been shown is so beautifully and sensitively done. Let's put all of that aside. Let's stop comparing. Let's see where Aasmaan Bhardwaj leaves a mark as a director. As a narrator, he's good in the sense that the film has a grasp of narrative fiction, of like narrative storytelling, the prologue, chapter 1, chapter 2, fine, that's great. But beyond that, there is not much. There are great characters. These are all great characters. I feel like I would watch different films about the different characters, but together somehow they're not coming together to give me a film that I would watch again. For example, जैसे कि है हर कैरेक्टर उनका एक मेन मोटिवेशन है कि हमें वो जो एटीएम वाला वैन है उसमें से पैसे निकालने हैं, राइट? Within these motivations they have different कि why do they need the money के motivations are also different, but even so it all seems a little superficial. You don't know कि अच्छा मतलब but क्या है आगे क्या है, what are we getting to know about these characters as people? Not much. I think Konkana Sen Sharma's character, for example, she plays a Naxal leader, Lakshmi. As a actor, brilliant, mind-blowing. She gives the role more than I perhaps the role gave her. And then also happens with Tabu. Like these explicit heavy tabus, giving Galia on screen was such a delight to watch, but the character just doesn't seem fleshed out enough. Radhika Madan also, as lovely, deserved way more screen time, which, I don't know, I think her screen time was cut. I don't know if that was a decision made by makers or the censor board or whatever, but there's this scene in the trailer with Shardul where they're in the Suhag Raat wala ek scene hai, I think. I hate that phrase, by the way, but that's the only way I can describe it to you, or like just with audio. But I don't think that's there in the film, and I was actually looking forward to that because it really gave a lot of shades to her character. But yeah, that happens a lot in the genre itself. I think that's it. There's a narrative style for sure. Absolutely, yes. And there is an attempt to make art brilliant. I think the cinematography by Farhad Ahmed Delvi is gorgeous. Every frame is perfect. But उसके वो जो art है ना उसमें subtext ज़्यादा है ही नहीं. Art relies heavily on text. Text relies sometimes heavily on subtext, but that is missing, and that's what leaves you feeling a little dissatisfied with Kuttey. And I was so excited for the film, and that's why I'm kind of sad about like what it turned out to be. I wanted more from Kuttey, but like, okay, I have to come back. I'm sorry, but I have to go back to the point about the women. There is one scene where this person pushes Arjun Kapoor into the pool and he falls into the pool and he's essentially, okay, like that happens. Now, in the next scene, you see that when people are laughing at him, the scene is predominantly women. And when people are standing behind him to help him and support him, it's predominantly men. And you have to see these things, these little markers are what make cinema so interesting, is that you can read into these things. There's no reason for that to happen. It's a party. Party में औरतें खड़ी थी लड़कों के साथ, but why did that suddenly change when this scene happened? You know, I don't know if it's a conscious decision, okay, but that bothers you. You're like, oh, it bothers me, but if in general someone's watching it, they're like, oh, look at the women laughing at him, but the men are helping him. That's something that your mind can subconsciously think. And that's the issue, right? And when it's kind of proof that just writing good female characters isn't enough. You have to change the way you look at women or change the way you look at your stories to actually make good female characters. Just because वो तुम्हारे main characters नहीं है, you're still treating them with the same sexist lens that other films have, and that's not enough. So honestly, like, I don't know. Vishal Bhardwaj is sure still one of my favorite filmmakers, but I don't know what happened here. I think the parts that are Vishal Bhardwaj in Kuttey are great. Like, the music is amazing. The music, I think, is credited to Vishal, and the lyrics are by Gulzar, and they're amazing, gorgeous. Every singer has done their best. And I don't know if I caught a bit of Rekha Bhardwaj towards the end, and she has like a magnificent voice. But yeah, I feel like these, I say but yeah so much, I'm so sorry. But see, oh my God. Anyway, the word I'm looking for is anyway. Those are, I think, my problems with Kuttey, and I'm just so upset. I'm so sad. I was so excited for this film. I genuinely wanted it to work because the trailer was so amazing and it just didn't live up to its own hype. And I think that's my biggest issue with Kuttey. You know, that's the issue. I still got to say Kuttey on podcast and on camera a lot. So I think, you know, there's a win-win there. Okay, like before I sign out, let me tell you my favorite part about Kuttey, though what I genuinely enjoyed was the idea of how you see the concept of Kuttey, in the sense that there are two adages about dogs. One is कि कुत्ते वफादार होते हैं and they're man's best friend. Nobody is as loyal as a dog. And then there's the adage of it's a dog-eat-dog world. And or as Gloria from Modern Family would say, dog-eat-dog world. That line that the film is kind of operating on is between those two. कि एक side पे ये है, एक side पे ये है. But our characters are in the middle. Who is who? You know, which is which? Who goes more towards the wafadar side or who goes more towards the dog-eat-dog style? Which Kuttey are we really referring to? That is probably my favorite part of Kuttey. That whole exploration was amazing. And yeah, I guess that's my entire thing. I'm just upset. I'm just sad. I feel like I went in expecting so much and being like, yay, fun movie, finally. And it just wasn't. It just wasn't. I think कमीने में एक डायलॉग है कि कुत्तों का जवाब एक ही होता है कमीने, and I think that's just very true for this film also. But yeah, I would still love to hear what you thought about the film. Even if you love it, I'd like to hear from you. I want to know what you like about it, what you don't like about it. So reach out to me. You can reach out to me on social media. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. My Twitter handle is @PratJourno. That's JOURNO. And my Instagram is @PratMishra. Wow, messed up my own name. Fun. My Instagram is PratMishraXO. That's MISHRA. But yeah, tell me what your thoughts about Kuttey were. I would love to listen to you. We can disagree on stuff. We can agree on stuff. Let's find out. Always excited to talk about films. But yeah, that is all for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Do I Like It is a Quint production, executive produced by Ritu Kapoor and Shelly Walia, hosted by me, Pratikshya Mishra, produced and edited by Anjali Palod, with music from Kuttey and BMG Production. See you next time.
You were listening to the Quint's podcast.